Am I recording? I don't know what's upside down or upside right. Yes, I'm recording. All right, I found a great place to hang it, but as soon as I hit record, I knocked it down. All right, passing some big trucks on the right, trying to hang my phone and drive and not drop the phone. Darn it. Bear with me. I'm not going to stop the recording. I found a great place to hang this, but I'm driving. Chastise me. Bad boy. Bad boy. All right. The bumps may knock it down at some point. I have this on cruise control. Look, it drives by itself. Construction ahead. All right, slowing down. Okay, sorry. Wasn't that exciting? All right, so I don't know, within the last half hour or so, recorded my new intros, which you will have seen by now, plus the surprise video in front of the Arizona sign. Welcome to the state of Arizona, or welcome to Arizona, the Grand Canyon State. And I'm kicking myself because I didn't... Yeah, bumps in the road. Oops, upside down. This is a great spot to hang it, though. I'm kicking myself because I didn't take a still image of the sign. There's a beautiful sign of the blue sky. All right, well, even us Hollywood producers forget important things sometimes. There will be plenty of other opportunities to get some great stuff. I mean, I just take a still frame from the video, which is fine, which will be high res and be good enough, I guess. So I wanted to, I'm about an hour and a half, maybe closer to 2 hours away from my next destination, which you guys already know, his dad's place, because you've already met him. That's the crazy thing. I think you've met him. I think he's going to let me record. This is a good, it's just, what you're watching now is 24 hours ago, if you're watching it as soon as I post it. But this is a 24-hour delay upload. So I'm going to see dear old dad here in a minute. I assume you're all pretty shocked to meet dear old dad. I presume it explains something about me. I guess inevitably meeting somebody's parents or a parent should tell you something about their progeny. I want you to know that one of the big dogs called me while I was driving earlier on, before that last stop. Before that was a gas stop as well. When I pulled off, did the video by the sign, I gassed up as well. So one of the big dogs, I guess you would say the biggest of the big dogs, the one I have a personal connection to, called me, and he's putting more channels up. I mean, I had texted him earlier in the day. As soon as I found out the big dogs down. As soon as I found that out, I texted him, hey, you should do this. I was like, you should do this, this, and this. And he called me, and I think in response to the text, maybe not. Maybe not. I think he, well, I didn't mention that I knew his channel was taken down in the text. I just said, your next channel, you should this. He called me and says, oh, I got taken down. So he didn't know that I already knew. So he hadn't watched the Big Dogs video. I mean, when you have your own channel, you become a producer, less of a consumer. Like, you still want to consume news, but it's harder to watch other people's channels because you're creating content. So that's why you talk behind the scenes, etc. Update each other. But he called me and he's like, oh, so how do I do this and that? Referring to the suggestions. Like one of my suggestions in particular is like, how do you do that? Because I work in post-production. That's a hint, right? I'm like, well, you know, within the editing software that you use, because he uses editing software, you should be able to find what you need for this particular thing. And then I said, as soon as you put it up, I'll promote you. And he's like, no. I'm like, what? It's like, no. Don't promote, he's gonna try it with what he's learned without, you know, like, because I as soon as he put this last channel up, I pushed a bunch of people there, and he started blowing up, in large part due to what we're doing here. Like, all you people, start channels. Those of you who've already started them, good job. But so he feels indebted to me. I told him, you're not obligated to ever shout me out or anything. You're not obligated. He goes, I am obligated. And that was like, oh, that was kind of cool. That was a previous call. But in this one, he said, no, I'm going to try and use the techniques that I've learned to build the channel myself. So that's a huge tease. Sorry. I mean, I'm telling you behind the scenes stuff, but I'll find out from him. Maybe he won't tell me what the channel is. But in the call, he had said multiple channels, so he's probably doing multiple different things. But this one idea, I said, you got to do it this way. You know how to do it. You got to do it. It's right up your alley. You'll get a channel up and create a separate bank account, alternate IP address. I mean, you have, those guys are targeted now. There's somebody targeting them. They've got to go off the radar, like to circumvent the system as much as possible. You've got to be on YouTube. All these people are saying, what are you doing on YouTube? Go to Rumble, go to this, go to that. And it's like, well, yeah, those are viable platforms. They're not the largest harvest field, right? There's one harvest field right now that's the biggest one, and you want to be there. And you can spend time in those other ones because you're going to divide your energy. I have a locals channel that I will probably this week start talking about, because I could get canceled, deleted any time now. But at least I've got my core here, Sweet Home Arizona. So you guys are getting to watch this behind the scenes stuff. You guys have a front row seat to this movement. It is a movement. It's like, there is no question about it. For my channel to blow up to 10,000 subs in a month, like today is the 28th day of my main channel. 28 days. And I'm going to be probably 1,100 subs by the end of the day. I mean, for you, it's tomorrow, so I'm maybe, I don't know. I'll be approaching that. But it's like, in 28 days, it's a movement, and all movements start small. They all start small, and I'm kind of late to it. Not late. Like, I think it's a movement that's going to grow and grow and grow and grow and never stop. So it'll get bigger and bigger and bigger inevitably. But it started. Technically, it started 2016, but I think this facet of it started with that other big dog. When he released a video that got 2 million views, he put out a video that got 2 million views in December, and it was like this thing that YouTube must have been like, what is that? And then they looked at it and they go, oh, we can't have that. But it was the beginning, and you can't stop it. Like, when something like that is born, it just spreads. And here we are. Here we are. I'm one of those spreads, because I had already created two of my other channels. You know, I got to put this content up there. It's important content. Somehow we'll get people's attention to it. So go to those channels, those marching orders. Watch the marching order video. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, watch my marching order video. So I had already had some YouTube channels up, but then I'm like, when I just found his channel. YouTube recommended it to me before they killed it. And I'm like, I know this guy. Well, a friend of mine is good friends with this guy. And I watched it, and he was saying everybody should start channels. And I'm like, yeah, I should just start a channel and reach out to him and have him promote me, and I'll just blow up real fast. And then he got deleted. So the timing wasn't right. But then when the Southwest investigation started happening, I'm like, oh, now's the time. Now is the time to do it. All these people are talking. I'm just going to get in on this right now. And the timing was just providential. So, yeah, I could just drive and not look at the camera. It's just a desert. Gorgeous. I love deserts. Let me put cruise control on. That'll help. It's all good. I mean, this movement. This is the actual investigation is a miracle, right? The investigation is. That's why I was like, oh my gosh, it's my home. Like, they're doing it. Like, they are actually doing it. It has to start somewhere. And so that thing is like, I've been researching history for the last 3.5 years. If you go to Tales of Truth or Sovereign Art Sock and watch some of the older videos, you'll see footage of me in archives. And what is an archive? It's the historical record, right? You're going and finding the original documents. And the reason I'm doing that in my project is there are enemies, very powerful enemies, that have suppressed this story for over 100 years, right? So there are people that have spent millions of dollars and wielded their geopolitical influence to suppress a true story, factual events. But if you go into the archives, their tentacles don't reach that far. Their tentacles can't get into every archive and get rid of all the proof, right? So that's what historians, like what I've been doing the last 3.5 years. I'm technically an expert on this one historical character. I know more about this character than anybody else alive today. I am an expert on this one historical character because I've been surrounded by historians and I'm focused and I know the family, etc. And so all of that is like training for me to look at what's happening in the Southwest, in our beautiful Southwest desert. What are they doing? It's the historical record. It's the thing that the tentacles of the resistance, the opposition can't, like they could try and burn them. I watched the series Narcos Mexico. And that's part of the reason I watched it is because it's a perfect example of the project that I'm working on, one that's been successful. It's history, true historical events in a foreign country. You know, most of it's in the original language, right? These are things that I want to do. And the series' second season ends with the 1988 people picking process for the president of Mexico, 1988. You find that episode, you watch that. That is the beginning of how our process has been undermined. That is like the first time the electronic devices were used to tabulate. 1988 in Mexico. It was apparently more advanced than what we had in the United States at the time, and it was used. And what happened? The certain government officials after the fact said, "Oh yeah, it was tampered with." They testified, and what did they do? They burned everything so nobody could ever prove it. There was just testimony that it happened, that the undermining and the perversion of the process happened, but they burned all the paper. So here in our lovely country, there are laws on the books, federal laws, that you cannot dispose of these papers for almost it's like 18 months to 22 months, something like that. So the investigation of the original source material, the archival, the paper, right? There is something. I'll close with this. I know this is a long one, rambling one, but I met this guy. He's like a life coach. I didn't meet him for that. I met him in town. He's a great guy, former old Presbyterian minister, and then he's just doing life coaching and public speaking training. I just met him socially, and we had beers at a bar. And he gave me a piece of advice that I've attempted to, this was a couple years ago, 3 years ago maybe. He gave me a piece of advice that maybe it was 4 years ago, that I've attempted to maintain. He says, do you journal? And I go, yes. And he goes, how? How do you journal? I'm like, I type it up on my laptop. It's like, get a physical journal and a pen. Do it that way. Didn't even explain why. I'm like, okay. And every day, and I haven't been disciplined in that. I have big, long periods of time where I do it multiple times a day, and then I get busy and slack off, do periodic entries. The physical paper, there's something different. Even though there is a digital fingerprint, right? Like, you can't create something digitally that doesn't have an origin point. There's digital forensics, that every digital piece of information can be traced, right? So it can be traced. But short of hiring a team to do that, to track things down, you write a journal, like physically. Even the penmanship, however your chicken scratch or whatever, that's artistic. Like, you are creating a work of art. And if it's God's will that you end up becoming a person of import, right? Like, historically something happens in your life that puts you on the map and people care, then those works of art, those journals actually have value and significance and all of the thoughts that you have. The thing about journaling, you're as vulnerable, you should be as vulnerable and transparent as possible, yet you always have in mind that maybe somebody's going to read this. But the fact is, somebody is reading it as you're writing it. Not you, just you. God is reading it. Like, so it's recorded, and you're just fleshing out your thoughts. Like, putting things in print, writing them down changes them. You have mental processes that are only partial. Once you commit something, to writing, you are forced to wrestle with it. What am I really thinking about? How would I communicate this, right? Thoughts are just impressions. They come and go. Speech is another form, and as you'll know with me, it's another imperfect form where I just can't complete a sentence and have improper grammar and etc. But when you go to write, it's the next level. So I encourage you all not just to start YouTube channels, but start journaling. Did I turn it off? No, it didn't hit the button. Bye everybody.